Hi there, greetings and salutations, and welcome to Chili Water and Hoagies and Hops here at 47th Boulevard in Indianapolis. My name is Rick. That is Derek Silver. We have no idea what episode we're on. 275, huh?
275.
Oh, Cincinnati.
I know exactly what
Cincinnati,
episode.
275, right?
I know exactly what episode.
Isn't that what we said last time? You didn't even know.
Is it 275?
Yes.
Cincinnati?
275, yes.
I thought it was 512 or something.
No, that's the area code. 275 is the bypass.
Okay.
Like, that's their 465.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's stupid. Nobody does the interstate. They do the area code.
No, I understand. But, okay, so what's area code 275?
Oh, I have no idea.
Well, okay. Then
202 is Washington, D.C. 203 is Fairfield County, Connecticut.
Is New York, right?
What up, 203? Yep, 212. Yep. 860 is also like Northern Connecticut. 260, Fort Wayne, and our friends up there.
What's
765 up in the
new
region.
one here? 463?
Yeah, I know. It's annoying. They ran out of numbers.
Yeah, but
They ran out of numbers.
You're lame if you're 463.
Remember that song? Was it Ludacris? I got hoes in different area codes. Area codes. I got hoes.
Anyway, thank you for joining us here on the
remember that
program.
song?
We have a lot to talk about because, of course, it is the end-all, be-all, the most important week of the sports calendar where everything rises and sets and everything is determined. Everything is predicated upon the always super important, super high secret, super, like, don't let anybody in Area 51 level. NFL Combine is upon us, Derek. This is where, basically, this is NFL summer chapter for guys in sweatsuits to walk around and go, hey, coach, you good, coach? You good? And then bro hug and go to St. Elmo's and take Instagram photos with Eddie White.
Look,
the week that we're
I'll take everybody's money. I'm glad that everybody, and by
I'm looking up area code 275.
And by saying I'll take everybody's money, I mean the city will happily take, what was it, a $9 million economic impact? I think it's around that level of money. And I'm glad that the Combine has remained here despite some quote-unquote flirtations with other cities or the NFL trying to kind of shop it around, even though I think they've come to find that Indianapolis is really the only place that can pull this off, at least from a seamless in a seamless way like they've been doing for the last 30, 35 years, however long that it's been. But yeah, you and I have been,
area code 275.
You and I have been together and doing some version of this show for a long time, and we both are in agreement that this is the most overblown, overrated week on the entire sports calendar in any sport. The idea that like an out-of-market radio show, like the guys who cover the Raiders in Vegas would come here. I guess maybe the Raiders are a bad example because they have the number one pick, right? So, but, give me a team that's drafting like 12, 13, 14, like the Dolphins.
The Chargers.
Right? Yeah. Like, okay. Or the Chargers, they'd be back a little further ways, right? Because they were a playoff team at the very least. But to think that they would send people out to Indianapolis to do their show live from here, it just that's great. I want them to spend money in the restaurants and eat the St. Elmo steaks and all of that stuff. But it just seems insane to me. It really
but it's
does.
happening. Here's the thing. If you're here for the NFL Combine, you're looking around and you're going, hey, this is great. We can go to the Pacer game. We can watch that. And if you do that, Derek, the reality is this, and I understand it. You're going to go and you're going to say, can we get a roster, please? Because I need to familiarize myself with these names. But then maybe you can take some while you're here for the Combine. If you want to get away, you can go and you can watch whether it be Indiana, Purdue. And, Butler's put together. Thad Matta, congratulations on getting over 500 wins.
Great.
So we're at that kind of confluence period here where there are a number of different topics to discuss. Maybe not an A topic, but a number of them to discuss.
Yeah, I didn't know what we should lead with. I thought maybe we actually would lead Colts free agency and NFL. Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen are set to speak later today. We're taping this very early in the morning on Tuesday. But so by the time you're watching this, they will have already spoken, but we don't know what they're going to say. We're not.
Let me.
Karnak, Johnny Carson, whatever.
We're close. We got a good roster, guys. I mean, look, we're close, and we know. I mean, a year ago, you look what we did. We're 8-2. We're right there, and then Daniel gets hurt, and obviously that changes some things. But we like our guys. We need to add some depth. We like what Sauce can bring to the table. He's got a little bit of bounce to him, and so we like that. And we paid a price to get him, two first rounders, but I think it's all going to work out for us. And we got some areas to work on. We got to make sure we get Alec back. We got to make sure we get Daniel back, and we feel good about that. We feel good about those guys. We like our guys. We like our roster, and we're confident. We're ready to get going and get back into it. And so long as we're healthy, I think it shows we got a chance to compete. Anything I missed?
Yeah, we're gonna make Daniel and Alec Pierce a priority. I think they're going to say those things. I don't think they're going to tell us anything that we don't already know.
Let me ask you this, though. Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
And I realize the Achilles is a curveball here, okay? But since Daniel Jones is entering in, technically he's going to be a free agent unless they franchise tag him, right? If they franchise tag him, they're going to have to pay basically a third more of what they would normally on the price tag. But even though he's coming off injury, and I know that's a huge curveball, did Sam Darnold increase? It's just this foregone conclusion to everybody. Slam dunk, done deal, Daniel Jones stays a Colt. Okay. And I would assume Daniel Jones is happy here and is grateful for the opportunity and likes the pieces that are around him here. But we're assuming that there's not going to be somebody that comes in and makes him a big offer. Is there any chance, Derek, that Sam Darnold taking Seattle to the Super Bowl and winning it increased the price tag for Daniel Jones? Because it showed.
Yeah, I think just in general, what's happened with Darnold, with Baker Mayfield, with Daniel Jones himself has increased the price tag with Daniel Jones. Yes, Darnold breaking through and winning a Super Bowl, sure. I buy that. I would buy that as an explanation for Jones getting even more money. But really, Jake, I think Jones's leverage comes with, particularly with the Colts, comes with the fact that what are the Colts going to do if they don't bring him back? You know, his agent, and he knows that. I don't care about the Achilles. I'm saying to you guys, look, if I walk out the door, you got nothing. You have no first-round pick. And who else is that? Malik Willis? Like, who else is out
Anthony
there
Richardson,
who you're going to have
baby.
to pay for? And, you know, we know that they're out on Richardson. We've talked about that. So I think that's where the leverage for Jones comes from. I do think I'm seeing some of the contract totals being thrown out, not only for Jones and for Pearson. I think folks are going to be in for a rude awakening, particularly when they see the Pierce number. I mean, you know, Pierce is going to get a lot closer to $30 million plus than he is going to get to $25 million or lower.
You know what, Derek,
there's going to be a lot of demand for Alec Pierce.
Let me tell you one thing that is, and I'm not saying that there's not backlash on this. So I'm not pretending to point out something and pretend that I'm the first to think it. But in reality, it is amazing that the Colts are, one would appear, on the doorstep of ridding themselves of a former top 5 draft pick at quarterback before even getting to a second contract of said player, and the guy who selected him just gets another go at it. That's very rare in the National Football League.
Not only did Anthony
very
Richardson,
rare in the NFL.
Yeah, not only did he underperform expectations, he was a historic level bust just as far as his actual quality of play. I mean, if you look at his numbers, it was historically bad. And a small sample size, and Anthony Richardson's going to get another chance somewhere else, right? So I'm not closing the book on Anthony Richardson.
Derek, this wasn't.
But like a historic level bust.
This wasn't Achilles Smith or Heath Schuler where you had production in college to go off of and then something just went wrong.
Yeah.
This
or
was
Kajana Carter where he just couldn't stay healthy,
correct.
Right? You know, something like that.
This was like, yeah, I mean,
even though the injuries were part of it.
You knew when you drafted him, this was the risk, right?
Yeah.
But it's just the fact that for as long as Chris Ballard kicked that can down the road and delayed taking a franchise quarterback, once it came down to it where it was like, okay, this is where you earn the keep. This is where you earn your title. You are drafting now the guy that you're handing the keys to the kingdom. And you had a colossal swing and miss.
And it's just one of those things that we've done. I don't want to necessarily launch into a whole thing about Ballard. You guys have been watching the show. You know how we both feel about Ballard. You know how we feel about them bringing Ballard back. They've ignored everything, essentially. Every mismanagement, every poor move, all of it has just been ignored and or excused. I mean, there's an excuse for everything. The quarterback, the franchise quarterback retired unexpectedly. The COVID year and all of that. Okay. Carson Wentz, and that blew up, and Frank Reich doesn't know what he's doing, and let's fire him and get a new head coach in here. And then, Anthony Richardson was hurt. Oh, wait, no, Anthony Richardson is bad. Oh, wait, no, Daniel Jones is the guy. Wait, no, he's hurt, so that's why we lost. It's just that's all they can offer anymore is just excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse. That's been the Ballard entire era. So you're right. It is kind of incredible. It's mind-boggling to look back and think that this person, given his track record, is getting a 10th year, but that's where we are. You know, the late, great Jim Irsay, I think, has a lot to do with that. I mean, he had convinced himself that this was like, I got the best general manager that has ever general managed in NFL history, right? He had convinced himself of that.
And the thing that is, he is still, Chris Ballard to me is the Andrew Luck of general managers. And by that I mean, when he arrived here, it was like, this is the boy wonder that everybody in the league wants. And I'm not sitting here trying to say that's, I have nothing against him personally, but everybody that you asked, so what is it about Chris Ballard that makes him special? He's special. He's just got it. What does he have that's the it factor? It's just special quality, leader. Okay, and what defines that exactly? What? Just look at where he's been, what he's done. What's he done exactly? It's been special. Okay? And it's kind of like when Andrew Luck, and I know that Andrew Luck was a great talent, but when Andrew Luck came into the league, it literally was like, this guy's just different. What's different about him? He's special. What makes him special? Intangibles. Like what intangibles? Just it. What's it? Just special. Okay? It was like this circular conversation, right? That eventually was going to pay itself off. And there's the difference because Luck did have, pretty elite production, obviously. But Chris Ballard is kind of that way, though, of the fact that there's still, I think he's still very highly thought of. I don't know, based on potential, I guess. Eventually, potential's got to show itself, right?
Yeah.
And they did have a good roster last year. Until Jones got hurt, admittedly, they were playing well, in his defense.
I still don't think, though, Jake, the reason why that comparison, I understand there are elements of that comparison that might not work. The reason why that comparison overall does not work for me is Andrew Luck in his rookie year helped lift probably like a 3-win roster into 11 wins and a playoff berth. Andrew Luck, they went to a conference championship game
I get it.
with, right? And we would all agree that in hindsight, given what that roster, members of that roster did for the rest of their NFL careers, it was a very flawed roster. Even 2018, and I know Ballard was part of that team, but to rally back from a 1-5 start and then make the playoffs and go to Houston and win and make the divisional where you lose to Mahomes and the Chiefs, like there was nothing that was negative about that, right? That was a great season, all in all. So I do think at the very least with Luck, there weren't maybe the results that you were hoping for when you drafted him number 1 overall, and certainly it was a much smaller timeline. But there were some results. With Ballard, my biggest problem is that there just aren't any results. There's nothing to point to and say, this is what was accomplished during his reign as general manager.
Well, the other disappointing thing, it's not my intention to sit here and say, like, hey, Colts fans, guess what? Your team sucks. Go back to bed. It's not my point. But here it is, the draft combine, and even that, they've taken the fun out of it, right? I mean, with the Colts not having a first round, who are they going to get in round 2? Can they get an IU receiver? Okay, sure.
Yeah, I hear you. The draft's still important, right? In the second, third round and all that stuff, it's still important for roster building. This is a big draft, and Ballard's drafts lately have not been great. You look at the last couple of classes, and they've been kind of When Ballard really hit on the draft, it was like, the 2018 class with Shaquille Leonard and
Taylor.
Yeah, and Taylor in 22 or in 20 with Michael Pittman Jr., but you had Nelson and Leonard in that first class. Braden Smith was in that first class as well. Grover Stewart was in the 2017 class. Zaire Franklin was in the 2017 class. And you look kind of less and less. It's been more of like a decline as far as the draft is concerned. But I do think, and again, they're going to talk later today, so by the time you're watching this, they will have already spoken. I'd be really surprised if they let either Daniel Jones or Alec Pierce hit the market if they have to tag, franchise tag, transition tag, whatever else. Well, I think they'll do so. They know they have to bring him back.
You would want, if you're the Colts, and you can use the franchise tag once, right, on a player, you would use it on Pierce, and you would try to get a deal done with Jones. Because if you have to franchise tag Daniel Jones, you're looking at $47 million for the year. Daniel Jones' market value probably peaks somewhere around 30 to 32. So literally nearly a 50% increase if you have to tag Daniel Jones. If you have to tag Alec Pierce, it's 27.
You're paying a market value.
You're paying a market value.
Yeah, $29 million or whatever.
That's what he's going to get. He's going to get 30, right?
Yeah, I think at least if he were to hit the open market, which I don't think the Colts are going to let them do, let him do, because again, like I just don't know what you do if you lose either of those guys. It's a catastrophe. I don't want to overstate it, but that's what it is.
Daniel Jones taller than Alec Pierce, correct?
I think
bigger
so.
guy.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones slightly older than Alec Pierce, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Daniel Jones would have been 2019. Pierce would have been 21. Class.
Daniel Jones, bigger price tag than Alec Pierce.
Yeah, quarterback.
Daniel Jones, franchise level player or label within the franchise, right? Do you see the similarities
to them?
Do you see the parallels?
Are you trying to say that I'm Alec Pierce and you're
Yeah.
Daniel Jones?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like your body's starting to break down. I think there's something to that. I'm still on the rise. I'm starting to earn the respect that I've always deserved, which I have not been given.
Okay.
So I actually really like that comparison. I think I absolutely am Alec Pierce.
I'm fine with it.
And you're Daniel Jones, yeah.
I'm better than Daniel Jones, admittedly.
Just replace the Achilles with a heart.
But Daniel Jones has had to play a couple different places and reinvent himself.
Yeah, he's been fired a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually,
Derek, laid off.
That's a really good comp.
If I was fired last job, then you were fired also.
That's a good comp. What happened with that was they wanted to get rid of you, and HR went back to them and said, well, we can't keep Derek at this point because he's just
inconsolable without his buddy.
He has wings. They need to spread so he can fly. That was I saw some internal emails at the company, and that's
okay.
That's what was said about me.
This is before or after you called me at 3:00 in the morning for the 7th time, stressed out over what was going to happen.
My career is over.
By the way, the combine itself, and if you look at where the Colts are, Derek, did Seattle prove that we can never fully judge at the beginning of the season who's going to be good and who's not? Or did Seattle prove simply the parity of the league in the fact that if you can build a good defense, that takes care of itself? And that's an area that the Colts have really struggled with.
We kind of talked about this in the immediate wake of the Super Bowl. I think for a while there in the NFL, like from, I don't know, 2000 and mid-2000s to about the COVID year, it was pretty much you have to have a top 5 player at the position, or at least a guy who was playing at a top 5 level, because Joe Flacco was never a top 5 quarterback, right? But the 2012 playoffs, he was unbelievable. I mean, he had a great postseason. You have to have that in order to win. And I think we've kind of transitioned into you still need to have a good quarterback, right? And probably a top half quarterback, but it's about the roster around them. Like Jalen Hurts is a really good player, right? Jalen Hurts isn't a top 5 quarterback. He probably never was.
Who's
probably
top 5
never will be.
right now? Top 5 quarterbacks right now.
Allen, Mahomes.
When healthy.
Yeah.
So I'm saying coming into this season,
I would still throw
Mahomes is out.
I'd still throw Lamar there.
Okay.
Man, Stafford's MVP, so don't you have to kind of say that, right now? I don't know if you were drafting right now, if he'd be a top 5 guy.
I don't disagree on Stafford. That's fair.
I think Justin Herbert's great. I think he's really good. I'm not ready to do that with Drake May. I wouldn't put Darnold there. I wouldn't put Bo Nix there.
I think Bo Nix and Drake May both, though, are showing that they're on the right direction. But it can turn quickly,
Whereas
right?
Stroud is going in the opposite direction, right?
Stroud is back. But
yeah, I mean, that would be my top 5.
Okay.
I don't feel great about that. I don't think I'm leaving anybody out.
Is Trevor Lawrence peering in on the top 10 yet?
I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a really good career and flash signs of greatness at times. What have I always said? I think he's Chris Webber.
Yeah.
Chris Webber's a Hall of Famer. I mean, Chris Webber, pound for pound, Chris Webber had a really good career. It's just he wasn't what he was expected to be.
And he was with bad franchises.
And he was with bad franchises. There were some things that Chris Webber couldn't control. But he wasn't the transcendent player that he was
here's another
made out
question.
to be.
Here's another question for you, Derek. And I'm going to ask you this question, and I can hear it now. I know right now. You're going to be like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? I mean, we talk about sports. We talk about issues. You're going to use your line, right? And then
it's my line.
5 minutes later, you're going to say, that's a really good question.
Every time you say that,
you're going to ponder it.
Say that. Brant knows.
And tonight, around 11 o'clock, I'm going to get texts and or tweets from people that are like, that's a great question. I'm still thinking about it.
I'll be asleep.
Okay? Here you go. You ready?
Yeah, fire away.
I thought about this earlier.
Okay.
Who's the bigger 80s icon, Phil Collins or David Lee Roth?
I don't even know if I'm equipped to answer that. Their peaks would have come when I was really, really young. But, if you're asking me just reaction, tell me, I would say David Lee Roth. I think he was more of a sex symbol, obviously, than Phil Collins was. So I think that goes into it.
Okay. So tell me if this makes sense, because I've had furious debates about this, mostly with myself.
Yeah.
I think Phil Collins is the bigger icon, but David Lee Roth is the bigger icon of the 80s.
Because he was so 80s?
Yes.
Whereas you could take Phil Collins in any era. And
Phil Collins, you could airdrop into the 70s, the 90s, whatever it may be, and his sound, the sound of Phil Collins, Take Me Home or Susudio, or the sound of Genesis, the Invisible Touch album, they don't define the 80s. But when you think about the synthesizer music, parachute pants, Aquanet hair flying around, jumping around, doing roundabout kicks on the stage, David Lee Roth, like if the 80s was a person and you took it to the police department and you were trying to describe the 80s to someone, the little sketch artist would draw out David Lee Roth. And he almost is entirely encapsulated within the 80s itself.
Yeah.
Whereas Phil Collins had crossover either way. Collins is the bigger icon, had the more broad career, and is probably more of the artist. But David Lee Roth more defines the 80s.
Yeah, and which song would you say was a bigger song of the 80s? Would it be something like, Sledgehammer? I mean,
well, that's
I don't
Gabriel.
know. I wanna be.
That's Peter Gabriel.
No, but we're talking about Phil Collins. Though.
No, yeah, but Phil Collins was with Genesis, and
your
became
eyes.
No,
in
Peter
your
Gabriel.
Eyes.
That's Peter Gabriel.
That's Phil Collins.
Peter Gabriel was the lead singer of Genesis. He left. Phil Collins took over. He was the drummer.
Eyes.
Took over as the lead singer, and then Peter Gabriel did "In Your Eyes" and "Sledgehammer" and "Salisbury Hill" while Phil Collins was leading Genesis. Then Phil Collins left Genesis and became his own deal.
Are you sure?
Well. I've never been more certain of anything in my life. David Lee Roth, on the other, very similar, though, because David Lee Roth, again, lead singer Van Halen, he leaves Van Halen. Sammy Hagar comes in. David Lee Roth goes and does solo stuff. I'm just a gigolo, and everywhere I go. That's David Lee Roth.
Little thing she does
no, that's no. See, that's the Police.
Is that Phil Collins?
That's the Police, and that's Sting. But Sting, again, he left the Police to go do a solo career. So you're confusing all of this.
I think you're the one
Police
that's
were big in the
confused here.
70s and the 80s. No, believe you me.
That doesn't sound right to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad it doesn't sound right, but I'm just telling you. I'm here to tell you.
Girls. Van Halen really did have some bangers.
That's girls.
They had
Girls,
some.
That's Motley Crue. Now Vince
like
Neil,
hair metal.
Vince Neil never did any solo stuff except for a couple of amateur porn. But no, that's Motley Crue. And Tom, you should know Motley Crue because Tommy Lee was Motley Crue, and you.
I know Motley Crue. Got it made. I'm hot.
No, that's the C again.
Got a man, so man. I'm hot for teacher. Great era. I'm glad that Jake brought up the '80s music. That was a great era for the '80s. We have our Hoagie Hero of the Week. You want me to go grab it? Let me go grab Always Sunny while you're thinking about '80s songs.
Oh, the Always Sunny. Okay. So at any rate, the other big story, of course, is that of the Indiana Pacers. And it was a perfect week. And congratulations to Ryan Carr. Ryan Carr, who has been the vice president of player personnel for the Indiana Pacers. He's worked in a number of different scouting capacities over 20-plus years with the Pacers. Now announced that he is going to be the general manager of Indiana University basketball. And so that means that he will report to Darren DeVries. But he's going to kind of oversee the roster building, I would assume, recruitment, the NIL budget, a lot of new areas now that we're starting to see this within college athletics. But I've known Ryan since we were in college together. Ryan Carr, a native of Seattle. We went to a Colts Seahawks game together in 1994. There were a number of things in college that you could see from Ryan. He was very disciplined. He was very stuck to his task. I mean that in a good way. And a good student and just very diligent, very by the book. So Ryan Carr will be a great addition to Indiana University for their basketball department. As for the Pacers themselves, it was the perfect week. The perfect week, Derek, because they had Washington twice and Dallas, and it was close. It was close, but they eked out what they needed to do, and that was lose the games.
They did. Yeah, it was a very beneficial week
for the
Pacers,
fabulous.
which we'll touch on coming up here in the next segment. And congrats to Ryan Carr. I mean, just what a wonderful guy. I've gotten to know him a little bit just through osmosis through you. And I don't think there's anybody in the city of Indianapolis or the state of Indiana that would say anything negative about Ryan Carr. Just a wonderful guy, family guy. And obviously a huge coup for IU to get somebody of his extensive experience in the NBA to run their college basketball operation. So congrats to everybody that made that possible. Time for our Hoagie and Hero of the Week. Brought to you by our friends here, Chili Water Brewing Tap Room and Hoagies and Hops, 42nd and Boulevard. This is the Always Sunny. Look at what Donnie made us here. Isn't this beautiful? Look at the presentation. So we have the Lisio's bread shipped in from South Jersey daily. Soft, delicious, crusty, awesome. You've got the Dietz and Watson chopped turk, right? You have the Munster cheese.
What are these little red peppers?
Really underrated sandwich cheese. I'm glad you said that. Peppadoo Pep. You got banana pep.
Perfect. The Peppadoo Peppers.
You got L, you got T, and you got the key to me, the horsey mayo. I'm not even a mayo guy. I would drink horsey mayo. If you gave me like a bottle of it, I would drink it. Here we go.
Just when I'm about to take a bite, Derek does so it takes me away. I will tell you this.
Oh, yeah.
While Derek is doing that, I will remind you of the beauty of the Built to Last. The Built to Last is the German Pilsner from Chili Water. Chili Water has all kinds of awesome beer right here at Chili Water, 42nd and Boulevard, or, of course, down in Fountain Square. But the Built to Last is the Pilsner, the German Pilsner. I think I mentioned you go over to, and I've been lucky to do it. I realize very blessed to do it. But you go to Austria, Germany. You go into any of the beer houses there. Basically, they have 3 beers. They got a Pilsner, they got a Lager, and they got a Stout. That's it. This German Pilsner is as good as any of them. And I mean, that is smooth. It has just that little hops undercurrent to it, but it is very, very smooth. The Built to Last from Chili Water, absolutely fantastic. Derek's going to open his right now.
You mentioned in Germany or Austria or whatever, and they only have 3 beers. Did you ever go, when you were in the city, did you ever go down in the East Village to McSorley's?
Light and dark, right?
Yeah, McSorley's Ale House has been open for, I don't know, like 150 years, like late 19th century, and you only have 2 options when you're in there. You want light or dark beer. And they got all kinds of, they never, the dust on the walls is still like kind of caked on the walls because they've never, I know it sounds gross, but actually it's a really cool place to go. That's what I thought of when you said that. This is delicious too, like you mentioned, the Built to Last, one of the core beers or Chili Water Brewing. Really good. This is a great track beer. I know that they make a track beer coming up in May, which is hard to believe. I mean, IndyCar season's right around the corner, of course, starting this weekend. But check that out at Chili Water Tap Room, always on tap. And then I want to shout out, we talk about how Christina and Donnie and the rest of the crew at Hoagies and Hops and Chili Water here are great neighborhood partners. Really cool thing going on. This is actually tomorrow. It's the Delicious Book Fair. So February 25th from 4 to 7, so it's Wednesday. Adult and kids books from Kids Inc., the children's bookstore up in Midtown, Butler, Tarkington, 56 in Illinois in that strip. Chili Water, Hoagies and Hops, delicious food, awesome books. Bring the kiddos, come by. I'm going to bring James. Going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait for the Delicious Book Fair. And then in March, you've got National Cheesesteak Days right around the corner, March 24th. So you got that coming up as well to look forward to. Our Hero of the Week, I thought this was a really easy choice.
Get it Built to Last while the kids look at books.
I know a lot of people woke up early for it. I'm up on the weekend, at 7 a.m. anyway, so I didn't have to wake up early for it. But the gold medal match between Team USA and Canada hockey, and of course the Americans win 2-1 in a thriller. I'm not even really a hockey guy, but man, that was an incredible game, and USA was really kind of holding on for dear life there in the second and third. You were just like, oh my God, like just try to keep this even at 1-1. And a big reason why they did so was Connor Hellebuck, the goalie, Hart Trophy winner, one of the top players in the NHL at the position. But if you're not a hockey guy, which I'm not, I had no idea who that was. Sorry, I'm not a hockey guy. I don't know if I can name 10 NHL players. I don't follow it. It's not my thing, even though I think live hockey is great and Olympic hockey is awesome too. And I do think that what's cool about it is that there were probably a lot of people like me who were kind of looking him up and being like, oh my God, he's 32 and he's been in the league this long. And wow, what an awesome story. But incredible. And it wasn't just him. There were a lot of heroic individual efforts in that game against what I think most people would agree was a Canada team that was better than them on paper. But still, hockey's the kind of game, Jake, where the better team not only doesn't always win, often it can lose because of a bad bounce or a hot goaltender or any number of circumstances. But that's what makes, I think, hockey so thrilling and fun is that, unlike an NBA 7-game series, you don't really know what's going to happen 90% of the time.
He's the goaltender for what NHL team?
Winnipeg Jets.
Sorry for eating my...
I only know that because I looked it up again.
So the Canadians probably had mixed feelings, right?
Yeah, it'd be kind of weird when he comes back first game at Winnipeg.
Like, would it be weird if the United States was in the gold medal game in basketball and Andrew Nembhard, let's say Halliburton was Canadian and they were playing for the Canadian team to, like, root against them?
Yeah, it'd be hard to just root for Nembhard by himself.
To root against him?
Yeah,
Right.
I love Nembhard. You want some Nan?
That's okay.
Nan's potato salad. This is homemade, in-house.
I mean, it looks great.
I got a fork for you.
Your germs are all
Oh, my God, it's so good. The sides here at Hoagies and Hops are incredible as well. Incredible. We come back on the show. We'll talk basketball. Pacers tank-a-thon continues and how IU and Purdue look heading into the NCAA tournament solidifying stretch
Jags
here.
report to get to, Derek.
Yeah, our last one, which is kind of sad.
It is.
Kind of sad. Last Jags report of the year as well. It's Corey and Schultz, presented by Bailey & Wood Financial Group. Taping from Hoagies and Hops, Chili Water Tap Room, 42nd and Boulevard, right here on the ISC Sports Network.
Nice snap.
Mortgages and a snap. Duh.
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgages and a snap. Duh.
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back. Bailey & Wood presents Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Alongside Jake Corey, I'm Derek Schultz. Hi, hello. We're at Chili Water Brewing Tap Room and Hoagies and Hops, 42nd and Boulevard, as we always are for each of our show tapings. But our presenting sponsor of the show, Bailey & Wood Financial Group, want to take a minute to tell you about them. 855-350-HOME, BAWFG.com for Bailey & Wood Financial Group. Home buying season is right around the corner. In fact, the house 2 doors up from us just sold. New family came in, which is pretty cool.
You didn't hurt the property value?
In the neighborhood. I didn't hurt the property value at all. In fact, people are like, oh, my God, Derek Schultz lives in this neighborhood.
Yeah. Okay.
It's going to snow below my driveway because that's what I do for everybody. If you're looking to get pre-approval for that home mortgage, do so right now at Bailey & Wood Financial Group. You want to be prepared when you go to the table with an offer and have all your ducks in a row. Also, if you're looking to refi, if you got in at 7.5% or whatever when the rates peaked out not too long ago, you can do so with Bailey & Wood Financial Group. Mike Wood and his team, 5-star customer service, also very active in the community and a great, great partner of this show whom we truly, truly appreciate. Let's talk Pacers before we get into IU, Purdue, and some of the college hoop stuff because, as you mentioned, really beneficial in the inverse NBA standings to lose 2 games to the Wizards. And I know what people are thinking. There are those folks, Jake, that are like, well, I would never root for the Pacers to lose. You try to win every game, or else that losing culture seeps into your brain. Look, the Pacers aren't tankers. They've never been tankers.
Right.
They're taking advantage of a unique situation here where their star player went down and a bunch of other guys went down. And this is also a draft where there are 3 what most scouts believe to be transcendent almost level players at the very top of the draft. And so I think they're putting themselves in the best position to succeed. I always say this, and I think I've said this on the show, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. There is no difference between winning 25 games and winning 15 games. You're still bad. So why be less bad? Who cares? Who cares if you beat the Wizards in a late February game? Who cares? It means nothing.
Derek, I watched over the weekend, and I've watched a little bit, right? Over the weekend, I watched BYU play. And Peterson at Kansas, I know everybody tells me that he's this unbelievable talent, and I'm not denying that. People would know better than I. But I'll admit the games that I've watched in Kansas, he's either not on the floor or he's missing shots. But A.J. DeBonsa, if I'm saying that last name correctly, at BYU, is 6'9". When he shoots, he doesn't release until he's like anybody at the very top of his vertical, which is like never ending. He has a very soft touch. He can put the ball on the floor. He can get to the basket. As I was watching BYU play, and I was watching all I was thinking to myself was, holy cow. Like, if they get him, I think I might get a tattoo for the first time in my life. If they get him, because, and it's a big if, but your mind starts racing. It's hard not to. When you think about if Halliburton, who has shingles, by the way, and is going to be away from the team for another 3 weeks, but if Halliburton is able to come back at 90% of who he was, and that's a big question mark, admittedly, but you've taken care of Miles Turner's replacement, and now you need, okay, who's going to be Ben Matherin's minutes and or production level? If they end up in the top 4 and they get, whether it be Caleb Wilson, Boozer, DeMonsa, or Peterson, one of those 4, any of those guys is going to be able to replicate for them the production off the bench that Ben Matherin leaves in his void of departure. Isaiah Jackson, just unfortunately the injuries, I think, held him back. It never – so that's not one you're looking at saying they got to fill that void. But it's hard to not think about what they would be like with that roster with everyone healthy in 2 years. Your mind starts racing. And so therefore, and they lose the pick. If they're not in the top 4, they lose that pick unless it becomes whatever it is, 14 and beyond or 15 and beyond or whatever. So basically they have to get in the top 4 to hold on to their first-round pick. It's already a good getting Zubats, but it becomes a huge one if you get Zubats and you also were able to replace the production of Ben Matherin.
Where would you get the tattoo?
Good question. I had a pact with Shannon's nephew that if they won the NBA title, we were going to get the Pacers logo tattooed on us. So probably my hip.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't think lower ankle, probably hip.
That's what you're choosing between?
What's that?
What about the small of your back?
No. I mean, what am I?
You're going to get an ankle tattoo, man?
Like a very small.
Yeah, like a little ankle tattoo?
Yeah, like below. Because I would get the tattoo somewhere where it's rather discreet.
I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to be
if you had to get a tattoo,
chauvinistic. I wouldn't get one on my ankle. That's girls get tattoos on their ankles.
Every fraternity guy gets his letters on his ankle.
I was going to get Schultz in Old English letters across my back that spelled out like Sublime because there's as many letters. And I'm so glad that I didn't do that because I would feel like an idiot at JCC or Rivy with a tattoo of my last name on myself.
I've told you before.
Even though I am a brand, technically,
my
I guess it would
hesitation
work.
towards getting a tattoo is I can never rule out the possibility of being a fugitive of the law.
That scares me because I agree with you that is true.
If I were to get the Pacers logo, do I go old school or new logo? Which logo do I go with?
Well, it's kind of remained the same outside of the hand was replaced by the lines, right?
Right. So would you go with the hand or the lines?
I think for you, it would have to be the hand because
Correct.
that's how they started.
Correct.
And I know you, and that's what you would go with. I don't even think that'd be a decision for you. But yeah, I think DeBansa as well would be my pick. There's just I think Peterson is unbelievably talented, and it's weird because I feel like whenever I watch him, he doesn't miss a shot.
Really?
Yeah, okay. His shooting ability is uncanny to me. It doesn't pass the smell test. I don't like the vibe with Peterson.
I think that's starting
I
to
don't like
generate
the
a little
vibe.
bit, isn't it?
And it is, and I think the fact that Alex Golden, who I know you've had on your show before, setting the pace, right? He said that he likes the fact that DeBonce was a guy from out there, and then he chose to go to BYU. And I know he's getting paid handsomely at BYU, but he chose to go to BYU. You and I both know, everybody knows, Kansas is like an NBA factory, right? Like
DeBonce chose BYU because they're giving him $5 million.
Well, yeah, no, I understand all that, but that's not. He's still playing hard, I think, for them, right? And the vibe fits with BYU, whereas with Peterson and Kansas and these guys that go there, and I just don't like it. I very rarely like Kansas prospects just in general. Like the vibe about KU basketball to me, the guys that go there, and I'm going to sound like my dad here, and hi, Dad, if you're watching, but like, I know that it's about money now, and it should be about money for a lot of these guys because this is a great way to capitalize on it now compared to what it was 10 or 15 years ago. But that's always been the only thing at Kansas. Nobody, they don't get any prospects from Kansas, really, right? It's all guys that fly in from all of these teams that are prep school teams or whatever else, and then they come in and they're shoe guys and all of that. And I don't know. A long way of saying I don't like the Peterson thing for the Pacers. I don't think he fits.
I think it's very cool to see the continued growth and emergence and really the next step forward here of Flory Benungo for Kansas.
Yeah.
Great defensive player. And it has grown into a guy where he's no longer thinking through it. It's instinctive now. And
I agree.
It's fun to watch him play.
I feel bad. I said all those negative things about Kansas. And
well, you're right, though. You're right, though, in the fact that so many players that have come out of KU. I mean, Paul Pierce was a special player, right? But there have been a lot of players that have come out of Kansas that were dynamic players at Kansas that were just a guy in the NBA.
Yeah.
Nick Collison,
Ray
Kirk Heinrich,
I thought
Ray
was going to be
Florence,
an amazing
Mario
player.
Chalmers.
Yeah.
They were good players, but they were not, they never, Jacques Vaughn.
Josh Shelby. Remember that one?
Shelby, yeah.
Josh Shelby, man. That was a rough one. But what you want for the Pacers is just to kind of stay in that bottom three, or at the very least the bottom four, before your odds start to kind of tick down below 10%. And that guarantees you nothing. I mean, you could technically have the worst record and still pick, fifth? So it guarantees you nothing, but you still want to put yourself in the best spot because there's just nothing to be gained from winning games this season. There's nothing to be gained from it.
And Derek, what they're doing this year, and I know that it's not fun, but, I'll tell you what I'm impressed by is Sunday. Sunday, I go to the game. It's a 5 o'clock start on a Sunday against the Dallas Mavericks. I think it was sold out.
Yeah, crowds have been great.
It's been unbelievable.
Crowds
And I think it's because people have figured out, they know why. It'd be one thing if the Pacers were bad just because last year was the anomaly. This is not the Phoenix Suns where it was like a finals run and then it was like, wait, what happened? It's not the Atlanta Hawks to get to the conference finals and the next year, like, what happened? They were legitimately good, and injury is obviously what has taken that away. And, this year, we all know the drill. And I think people are cool with it.
Yeah, me too. I think the fan support has remained very strong. And I think fans are also looking forward to 26-27, knowing that there are good days ahead. You don't feel like the Pacers are in a hopeless situation or a situation where they're going to lose, for the next 3, 4, 5 seasons, whatever it is. Let's get over to college hoops. Purdue beating up on Indiana at Mackey on Friday night, largest victory in the series since 1969. But I actually heard Zach Osterman on your show on Friday, and I completely agree with him. I think that game was a nice to have it, don't necessarily need it game for Indiana, whereas Purdue, for that senior class, and you could tell, I think, by the way that they played, they weren't going to lose that game.
Well, and Purdue also, Derek, I think, if you look at that it was kind of a reset and let's get things headed back, get the slot car back completely on track here, and a resounding victory. When you get one of those wins where guys are hitting from the logo and starters who have been pulled from the game are waving the towel and smiling, that's kind of what you need to just kind of wipe the Etch-a-Sketch clean a little bit. Now, how will they rebound from that? Because for Purdue, the challenge continues, right?
Yeah, Michigan State tonight.
Indiana's got Northwestern, obviously, tonight, but for Purdue, it continues to get big. But I think that we know Purdue has played they are not going to be a 1 seed. They may not be a 2 seed at this point. But when it all comes together for them, they can be very, very good. I don't know that they are a championship-level team. They are probably a Final Four contending team, but they feel to me like a regional finalist. But either way, that was a big win for them. And it also foreshadowed a little bit if everybody stays there, which has been kind of the calling card for Purdue. But, Derek, it did show that there are guys waiting in the wings once these seniors move on, that Purdue's going to be able to sustain where they were.
Yeah, I mean, I think Omer Meyer's a really great player. Jack Benter's been really good in his redshirt freshman year, and then they've got a great class coming in too. So I think Purdue is, they're a program at this point. It just keeps on kind of churning. They'll take a little bit of a step back next year, but in the scope of this year, I agree. I have really serious reservations about what their ceiling is. I think that they look like an Elite Eight team, and while an Elite Eight sounds great, right? I mean, hell, an Elite Eight, IU, not to turn everything about Purdue into IU or vice versa, IU's been to one Elite Eight in 33 years. So, for some programs, an Elite Eight would be, oh my God, like, I can't believe it. Whereas that would be a huge disappointment considering that they were the preseason number 1 from where they were. But I agree with you. I just don't think that they can get to that like Michigan, UConn, even Houston or somebody like that, like these teams that are super long. And I guess Houston wouldn't necessarily fit into this, but like shooters all around. I think that causes some problems for them. But, it's a tournament, it's single elimination, and you just kind of never know. They are in line for a 2 seed. If they end up, especially if they win out, they certainly will be a 2 seed. But that's a lot more than that's easier said than done, right? Because you got Michigan State tonight, at Ohio State, at Northwestern, and Wisconsin. There's 3 quad 1 win opportunities in there, and they've already got 8 of them, and 7 of them surprisingly have come on road and neutrals.
Who are the 4 best teams in college basketball?
Michigan, Arizona, Duke, and I think it's Houston. I think it's the top those top 4.
Okay.
UConn would be like right there.
Illinois.
I think there's Illinois. To me, it should be unbelievable and unstoppable to guard. I think they've been a little bit disappointing here down the stretch.
Iowa State. I mean, Houston got beat last night at Kansas.
I've watched them. Fine, I'll put UConn ahead of Houston. How about that? I've watched Iowa State probably the least. I saw them destroy Purdue,
right?
And I saw them one other time this year. But I don't know if I would put them in the top 4 mix. I think they're in the Purdue category.
Gonzaga?
Same thing. I think they're in the Purdue category. This is the problem, though, Jake. I think you have 12 teams that can win it all, probably, and that's usually not the case.
No, I would agree with that. And there's no clear cut, the year that UConn won it and beat Purdue, I think everybody knew going into it, like, look, this is a buzzsaw, right?
This is more – I think this is more like the year before that where UConn won and it was a little more open. But that said, there are much better teams at the top than you – remember UConn played like San Diego State and you're like – FAU was in the Final Four. You're like, what? Like, what is this? I don't think you're going to have that this year.
I always get FAU and FIU confused.
FIU is in Miami, I think, right?
Isn't everything down in Miami? Where's FAU? Boca Raton?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Isn't that Miami?
I don't think so.
Everything's suburb Miami. Near the Panhandle.
Well, the Panhandle is not Miami. That's the other
But
side.
if there's a state with a Panhandle, you always say, is that near the Panhandle? That's what you have to say. Do you know the only state?
I don't know anybody in Oklahoma. So.
Do you know the only state with multiple panhandles?
No. I don't. Should I know that?
I don't know. There's only one state with multiple panhandles.
Connecticut has one.
Okay.
Yeah, the little leg on that.
Do you ask people?
We were on the leg.
Do you ask people?
Trumbull's on the leg.
Do you ever say?
No, because I'm not an idiot.
But when you're in Connecticut and people you meet somebody,
No,
you say
it's not a thing. No. You're either in Connecticut. You're either in Fairfield County, or
I'll
you're
give
not.
you the answer in a second, by the way. But first, let's get to our Jags report. IU Indy. It's a little bit sad, Derek. It's our final Jags report of the season because I always enjoy talking about the athletics at IU Indy. Luke and the group over there, they do a fabulous job. And not only are you seeing Division I athletes, as you hear me mention a lot, but Division I athletes oftentimes from Central Indiana and world-class facilities, and that includes the new one they will have upcoming with their basketball arena. The natatorium, it goes without saying. People come from all over the world to swim at the natatorium. The track and field events at IU Indy. You're talking about a track and field scenario that has launched Olympians in trials, had the Pan Am Games, the soccer stadium. You're talking about a soccer venue that is used at the professional level. So world-class facilities and world-class people and athletes at IU Indy, and we are always happy to bring the IU Indy Jags report. Let's begin with, you heard me mention the natatorium, swimming and diving. The Horizon League championships were closed out with 3 individual wins for the Jags from IU Indy. That includes Logan Kelly and Yassine Abdegani. They are headed to the NCAAs with record-breaking time, so congratulations to both of them. Abdegani, by the way, was the swimmer of the meet. And Sebastian Otero was the men's diver of the meet. Congratulations with that. Alabaya Heidi was the women's diver of the meet. So you've got all across the board great competition. And not surprising because when you have a venue like the natatorium, people come to be able to swim and dive at that particular facility. That is a real recruiting tool, for example, for Damian Dennis, who is the men's swimming coach of the year. Congratulations. And Eric Barnes, the women and men's diving coach of the year for the Horizon League. So congratulations to IU Indy all the way across the board. Women finished 3rd overall in the Horizon Championships. Men finished 2nd overall. There is basketball that is played inside the jungle at the Natatorium as well. And on the women's side of things, they got a win on Senior Day, which is awesome, 74-72. They get a big win over Detroit Sunday in the jungle. Olivia Smith led the way with 20 points. Sydney Bolden, by the way, had 15 for the Jags, who right now stand at 12-15, 8-10 in league play. Finishing on the road Wednesday, that is tomorrow night. They're in Green Bay, and then Milwaukee on Saturday before the postseason bracket is announced. Men's side of things, tough one. They fell to the league leader in the Horizon League, Wright State, over the course of the week, 85-73. Kyler DiAgostino continues his high-level play. He had 20. McGuire Mitchell had 13 for the Jags. They host Oakland coming up tomorrow night. Oakland tomorrow night at the Jungle, 6:30. It is Fan Appreciation Night. 6:30 tomorrow night at the Jungle, IUIndyJags.com/tickets. IUIndyJags.com/tickets for 6:30 Fan Appreciation Night tomorrow night against Oakland. And then Senior Day, Saturday at 2 o'clock, taking on Purdue, Fort Wayne. Again, tickets available, IUIndyJags.com/tickets, and then we'll see where things fall in terms of the postseason. And don't forget, the Horizon League Championships are coming March 8th through the 10th. March starts here in Indianapolis at the State Fairground Coliseum, Corteva Coliseum, for the Horizon League Championship coming up March 8th through the 10th, Derek.
Yeah, we're going to tell you more about that next when we have our quick hits, including an update on the Bears coming to Indiana. And this is how old Phillip Rivers is. His kid has committed to college. So we'll talk about that when we return.
Kid?
It's
1,
Query
2, 3,
Schultz.
4, 5,
Well,
6, 7, 8,
yeah,
9.
good question. I'll tell you. We're presented by Bailey Wood Financial Group here on the ISC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned, and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.
On the queue, it's Query and Schultz, Bailey Wood Financial Group.
It's always Vince's fault, right?
You know, and he's a great guy. Sometimes just early on the queue, that's all. Sometimes maybe he felt like we didn't talk Pacers enough, or maybe we talked too much Pacers because they're losing and he doesn't want to hear about it. Time for our quick hits, brought to you by our friends at the Horizon League. Look, we got the glass even right here, horizonleague.org. As Jake had mentioned, the Horizon League Championships is 2 weeks away, March 8th through 10th at Corteva Coliseum, not too far from here where we are in Midtown. That would be on the eastern edge of Midtown. We're more on pushing the western edge of Midtown. Presented by Barbasol, it's great Division I high-level basketball action right here in the Circle City and at a great venue as well. I love Corteva. It's an awesome place to watch a game. And Wright State, Robert Morris looking to defend their men's crown. On the women's side of things, it's been very competitive. It's been a high-level basketball. Had a couple of teams, postseason teams from last year, and looking forward to it. Always fun for our friends from the Horizon League, headquartered right here in Indy, and their basketball championships right here at the State Fairgrounds and Corteva Coliseum, horizonleague.org. So an update on the Bears. It looked like last week that they were getting very close to coming to a deal with Indiana. Illinois has now gone back to the table and are making a push, so we should know more by the end of this week if they're going to get that tax break or whatever it is that they want from Arlington Heights, which was their original intention.
They want a 40-year tax freeze, right?
Yeah. But there was a confirmed report today that their training facility and headquarters, it was speculated those could move too. Those are going to stay. So those are in Lake Forest, Illinois, which is Hallis Hall is at least, which is 45 minutes northwest of Chicago. And they've been there ever since 1979, or they've been in that area since 1979. The current site has been there since 1997, has been renovated multiple times. So that's staying. So even if they're in Hammond, isn't that crazy that Hallis Hall would be in Lake Forest? I mean, you're talking an hour plus from Hammond to get over there. But I'm still hopeful, Jake. I think it would be neat. I'm not usually a public money for stadiums guys, but for an area of the state And for a city in Hammond that, I'm not trying to be mean here, but there's no attraction
here's
to
my only
going
thing.
there.
Here's my
I
only
think it
thing.
could help.
Here's my only thing.
Yeah.
I understand the prestige of it. I get it, right? But let's be real. Give me a team in the NFL off the top of your head, not within driving distance of here.
Not within driving distance.
Give me an NFC team that's a flight away.
The Rams.
Okay. So the Rams make the NFC championship game. They're going to play in the second week in January in Hammond, Indiana against the Bears. The Derek Schultz and the Stolman of Orange County that are diehard Rams fans say, you know what, let's go. Are they going to book a room at the Hampton Inn of Crown Point and go over to the movie theater in the Wolf Lodge there and hang out there and go get themselves some Casey's Pizza across the street from the stadium in Hammond and go take in the game and then go back to the Chili's across the street, spend all their money, and then fly home? Or are they going to fly to Chicago, into O'Hare, get a room at the Drake on the Miracle Mile, walk up and down Water Tower Place area, go up into Wrigleyville, go to the bars there, then get up on Sunday and take a train over to Hammond, go in, watch the game, get on the train, go right back, and go right back to Chicago?
Here's my counter to that. Those two folks in L.A. or any other major city could potentially fly into Chicago any other weekend when it's not a Bears weekend because there's things to do and stuff to see and people visit Chicago. Nobody visits Hammond, Indiana.
But what I'm
so
saying
even if you get two people that book a hotel room, that's two more than you were going to get.
Okay.
Jake, my point is that there is no tourism or attraction to Northwest Indiana at all.
I get it. I get it. But
So even if you get a tiny fraction of that, the trickle-down effect of just having the stadium there, I think it's a positive
but
thing.
at what cost? If you are that's my point.
You're not wrong. You're not
at
wrong.
What cost? I get it. I mean, it's cool. Don't get me wrong.
This is one of the only cases where I feel like I would be in defense of bringing a stadium here just because there's nothing over there.
Here's ultimately what needs to happen. The Bears need to move to Hammond, Indiana. The Colts then, who have their Indiana Knights uniforms and have that one logo that subtly has the state of Indiana in the middle of the C. The Colts need to realize, like the Phoenix Cardinals did, that, you know what? If there are going to be two teams in this state and we want to own this state, we are going to go ahead right now and become the Indiana Colts. And if they're the Indiana Colts, then that means plenty of royal blue and white, why not Indiana T-shirts that can be sold. That's what needs to happen.
They're not going to do that. You know that, right?
We don't know.
You haven't made enough money on that shirt already?
No, I have.
Come on, you're getting greedy.
I've done okay.
Getting greedy now. Speaking of getting greedy, because I've seen what IndyCar pays him. IndyCar season opening up this weekend. St. Pete is the opener. They're also racing. I didn't realize this, Jake. They're racing for 3 straight weeks and 4 out of the first 5.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember years where they did St. Pete and then took a month off.
St. Pete, Phoenix.
And Arlington, right?
Arlington, which is Dallas, yeah. And then Long Beach, Barber Long Beach, right? Long Beach,
That
Barber.
sounds right, yeah. But only one race in April, but still, that I think one of the races is like, obviously March 1st or something, and then March 31st, so, or whatever it is. But I actually like that. Like, I think you can build some momentum that way. I always thought that it was weird. Beggars can't be choosers. IndyCar's just got to do what it's got to do. It's a niche sport. It's just trying to survive. But I hated the fact that they do like St. Pete, and then they take like, 2 or 3 weeks off. Then they do Barber, and then it's like 3 more weeks off.
They are getting good cross promotion from Fox. I will say that.
Yeah.
They're getting good.
I've seen. I saw Pillow on. He did like the FS1 show or something, and I've seen the commercials run during college basketball games, which is great.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see that. What year was this? This year 17 for you now? 18? 09 was that your first year doing
07.
Oh my God! Really?
So 20.
Wow. And the whole series 07
I
or
became
07 was just the
full-time.
500.
This would be my 20th Indy 500 and probably my 19th full-time year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did it as a one-off, and then they were like, God, we're desperate. We don't have anybody else. You could stay on.
Pretty
and
much,
keep
yeah.
going.
Yeah.
James saw your display at the IMS Museum and saw your name on there. He's like, hey, there's Uncle Jake. And I was like, yeah, there he is on the wall.
I have not yet been over there. I heard it's cool.
There was also a guy named Dick on there that was on the wall, and he thought that was pretty funny, too. I don't remember what the last name was.
Mittman?
Maybe it was Dick Mittman, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Weren't we on the show? Didn't we? Did we give Dick Pohl a shout out on the show recently? Didn't we? We were talking about funny names or whatever. The Reds' third base coach was named Dick Pole. You remember?
I'd like to
remember Dick Pole?
apologize for those that have either children or themselves an established maturity over the lack thereof of what's sitting to my left.
Shout out Dick Pole. Phillip Rivers' kid has committed to his dad's alma mater, Gunner Rivers, heading to NC State, rising high school senior class
You're
of
not going to make a
2027.
joke about how, like, if they combine the kids, it'd be Dick Rivers? I mean, are you like...
All right, come on. Like, we're trying to do a show here. Let's be mature. Chose the Wolfpack over Auburn, Miami, and South Carolina, top 150 recruit nationally, according to some services. Did you know this, Jake? Phillip Rivers is not only still NC State's all-time leading passer. I don't think that's a surprise. He's the ACC's all-time leading passer. And he graduated, 22, 23
not
years
overly
ago?
surprising, especially when you consider now that if somebody's after 3 years,
I guess that's fair, but like Clemson, Florida State, like think about the programs in the ACC, and you know, Phillip Rivers is still the all-time.
I mean, Deshaun Watson, you would think would be up there because he threw played a lot of games, but he also was hurt. So.
And I guess Lawrence got banged up at times too, and missed a couple of games. Didn't he miss a COVID game? Did he get COVID the COVID year against Notre Dame? Yeah, that's right. Okay, I was like, I don't think I'm.
TJ Uyunglele came in and threw for like 400 yards.
He was great, yeah, and then
that was all.
It was all downhill on what was it, Oregon State, and then I think he went somewhere else in there too.
Florida State.
Oh, Florida State. Okay, yeah. No bueno when it came to DJ, unfortunately for him. We come back. We will wrap up the show. Chateau Kitchen's Buy It or Bull Bleep and Ty Bo on episode 275. Also a very special day coming up this week. You guys already know this, but I want to remind Jake. It's Corey and Schultz presented by Bailey Wood Financial Group here on the ISC Sports Network.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
¿Cómo estás? Welcome back. Final time here on Query and Schultz, presented by Bailey and Wood Financial Group. He's Jake. I'm Derek. Hi. Time for Buy It or Bull Bleep, brought to you by our friends at Chateau Kitchens, chateaukitchens.com. They are in the business of in-home transformations, whether it be a kitchen, it's in their name, right? Bathroom, a wet bar, a basement, anything on the interior of your home. Chateau Kitchens can transform it for you, update it for you, and really change your life. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here. It really did change our lives in our house over in Midtown with what Chateau has done.
Nobody says Midtown,
guest bathroom,
but in the Meridian Kessler area of which you live,
kitchen.
They did a great job.
Wonderful job. Add Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook for before and after pictures. You don't even have to take my word for it. But Stephen Moore and the rest of his crew, the designers, the builders, the workers, the partners that they work with, the flooring guys, the paint guys, the cabinetry, everything like that. It is just a top-notch operation over there, and can't vouch for them enough. Derek at QueryandSchultz.com. If you want to email me and ask me my personal experience with Chateau Kitchens, I'm happy to lay it out even further and give them the highest of high recommendations. NFL Combine's never leaving Indianapolis. Buy it or Bull Bleep?
Buy it.
Yeah, I buy it too. If they were going to leave, they would have left by now.
And how much longer are they going to do the Combine?
The NFL needs to keep that thread alive, I think, because they want Indy to invest in things and all of that.
You saw, Derek, the draft is coming to Indy. By 2030, they say the NFL draft, they're going to make a pitch.
Good. It should.
You know what I always say?
It can't handle the 900,000 people that are going to come to town.
Here's the thing, and I don't remember how this was in the news a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, but I said this. I'm going to repeat it. The NFL draft, if it comes to Indianapolis, there was some sort of a statement, I think, from the NFL saying they would not use the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You know why, Derek?
Why?
Because if you use it if you say the draft is going to be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, now there is tangible, visible evidence that you're not actually getting 300,000 people there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to just have it in Military Park and say 400,000 people were at the NFL draft, whereas if you have it at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it's like, gosh, that's weird. There's only people along the main straightaway. That's 50,000.
When's the last time 400 people were in Military Park? I guess they have like German Fest. Do they still have German Fest and stuff down there, or have they moved all that?
Irish Fest, maybe?
Yeah, one of the fests I think is still down there, so I take that back.
German Fest is at the Anthony. That's where I do the
That's
Wiener
right,
Dog races.
yeah.
It's awesome.
IU will not have to sweat it out on Selection Sunday like in years past.
Fine.
Better believe.
They're in.
Well, they're not in yet, but
They're in.
if they beat Minnesota and
If
Northwestern,
they stay on where they are, they're in.
yeah, and as long as they split with Michigan State and Ohio State, which I think they'll do, I think they'll be fine. I don't think that they have much of a ceiling, though. Like, remember when Nick Dorn had those Big Four games, and you're like, hey, maybe Indiana could be pretty good, and then Nick Dorn's carriage just turned into a pumpkin.
Totally.
But then again, you still have Lamar Wilkerson, who could go for 35-40, and sometimes in the NCAA tournament.
Okay. I have one for you, Derek.
Yeah.
Buy it or bull, Schultz. This year's NCAA Men's Final Four, which will be right here in Indianapolis, will feature at least half of its participants seeking their first ever national championship.
Bowl bleep.
Okay.
Yeah, bowl bleep, because UConn, Arizona, Duke, right there, have all won a national championship.
Iowa State.
Yeah.
Houston.
Yeah.
Purdue. Gonzaga.
Illinois.
Yeah. Several possibilities there, right?
I'm still taking
Some wild card out of nowhere. Like
top
who's a
field.
wild card team that could just get in and catch a heater?
Kansas.
Yeah, but
North
I'm talking
Carolina?
about, like a Wisconsin.
Oh, you mean somebody like off the grid a little bit?
Wisconsin,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although
okay.
they've won it before, but still.
Yeah. But Florida's a really good team. Again, they could defend
Florida
their title.
every year, Derek. What do I say about Florida? Florida every single year. Selection Sunday comes out, and you're like, Florida's a 3 seed. They've won 25 games. I've heard nothing about them all
No,
year.
I haven't heard. Yeah.
That's Florida.
You're right. It's weird that's the case. Anything you want to say to me before we wrap up?
I don't think so.
You know what today is or this week is? It's February, late February. What happens in late February every year?
We get ready to turn March. Thank goodness.
No,
Towards the end of the
that's
tunnel
not
on
it.
winter.
not
Selection
it.
Sunday's around the corner. The weather's starting to break. I just talked to somebody on Long Island. They got 21 inches of snow.
Yeah,
We didn't
crazy.
get that. Thank goodness. So yeah,
Anyone you
that's
know
cool.
from that area that is celebrating something?
Yeah, I know.
Long Island Sound.
I know. Yeah,
Other side of
people
it?
in Long Island celebrating this snow day today.
It's my birthday on Friday.
When?
Friday. You know it's February 27th. You're playing.
I don't.
Everybody
I
knows.
didn't know it's.
I actually feel bad for Jake because I think people like sometimes
You know what?
over celebrate my birthday.
I just thought about this, Derek.
Listeners and viewers.
I don't know this because when you had a big birthday party, I was not invited. So
I already told you that is Ashley's fault, not mine. It was a surprise party. I can't invite you to a surprise party that I didn't know was going to happen. Obviously, I would have had my best friend there.
how do I not get thought of?
Obviously, I would have known.
I think clearly
I have
you
a
said,
big circle.
if you're going to have a surprise party for me, don't invite Jake because I want to be the epicenter. That's what you
I have
said.
a big circle. I do. Whenever I'm with my guy friends, I don't want you to be around. Like when you were at Mo and Johnny's and we were in our Hawaiian shirts, I was disgusted to see you there because I don't like it when you are taking over things.
I don't take over anything. I just
But
walk
my buddy
in.
who really watches this show pretty religiously was not in the right state of mind to freak out that he doesn't even remember you being there. So that did help.
Okay.
Thanks to our great sponsors. Thank you to IU Indy for their support this year. Our last Jags report.
IUIndyJags.com/tickets.
Thank you to, of course, Chateau Kitchens and the Horizon League, as well as Chili Water Brewing Tap Room. They let us into their house here, hoagiesandhops.com for catering and more, 42nd and Boulevard if you want to check them out. And then, of course, our presenting sponsors, Bailey and Wood Financial Group. For Brant, for
By the
Vince.
way, Lauren as well at IU Indy.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I mentioned Luke Basso. Lauren is kind of the brains and a lot of the effort behind all of it, too, at IU Indy. And very much appreciate her participation in working with us as well.
No doubt. He's Jake. I'm Derek. We'll see you next time right here on Query and Schultz.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned, and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.